This is Shane Medanich from Hightower and SM Project, and been seeing him around for years playing shows, and find out that he's got a history in New York skateboarding, and figured we'd give a talk with talking about metal in San Francisco and New York and music and skating.
Yeah, I grew up skating in like White Plains. Our shop was Sports Boutique. Didn't have the best board selection, but it was like awesome skate shop vibe. It was.
So you were in
where
White Plains.
everyone met.
You said you mentioned Bronxville. Was that like similar?
Just lower Westchester County.
Okay.
Anyone from the city is like, you're from upstate. I'm like,
Downstate.
downstate. I could skate to the Bronx.
Yeah.
You can skate to the Bronx.
That's sweet. Yeah. I only finally recently got a chance to go to like Yonkers, and it's nice. You're not really that far out of town, but it feels like so much of a difference.
Yeah, and there's trees and shit.
Exactly, like a creek, like at the skate spot.
Yeah, that Yonkers Park's cool. That was like unheard of then. We would skate from Eastchester to Yonkers, and that was like our whole weekend. Skate for 2 hours through the different towns, just finding spots. Starting Central Avenue in Scarsdale, and like skate to White Plains, finding so many different gravelly banks and just weird New York State kind of spots, Grand Central Station was a half-hour train ride on the Metro North, so I was able to go down there. Since I was very young, 14, we were taking the train, able to hit the Brooklyn banks, make all those crazy contests back in the day. And it was a good place to grow up. Like I said, there's trees and lakes, but then we can be in Manhattan, go street skating and go see shows in like half-hour, 35-minute train ride. So, nice place to grow up.
As far as playing shows and whatnot, what are some of the like most memorable or biggest shows that you think you've played with? Maybe like favorite bands that you've had a chance to be on stage with and things like that.
I played with the Bad Brains once.
Oh yeah, that's sick.
I was with Hightower at this festival in Northern California. I played so many shows. Got to play with Sick of It All and Pennywise. Got to play with Agnostic Front. That was a big highlight. There's so many freaking bands I've played with.
Yeah, no, I figured that would be a hard one right off bat.
Yeah, I can like get back to them,
Yeah, I would say
as they come to me.
Come through, yeah.
And so many shows, with Hightower alone, we've probably played 1,000 shows,
Oh yeah, 20 years you said. I didn't know that.
Yeah, 2001 we started. And
probably when I started skating.
Yeah, and right away we just hit the road. We would play go on tour every summer, play every night for 6 weeks every summer, and then little short tours here and there throughout the year. This was before GPS, before the internet and all that. We just took our cues from Black Flag and Descendants,
Mm-hmm.
Make phone calls, hit the road, figure it out. And skateboarding was always there, that skate rock recipe, Go to the skate park and play. Played at Louisville skate park at 3 in the morning.
Oh yeah, that's
and
sick.
it was berserk. It was super.
They got the full
super
pipe
sick.
there, and it's super outlaw. They got people in there on mountain bikes just.
Yeah, there's a rave. There's a rave going on.
Oh yeah.
The place is huge, and that was 2004. And again, just showing up. I think we slept there that night. Anything goes.
Yeah, it's like one of the only 24-hour skate parks that are especially on its scale.
Yeah.
With the lights and amenities and whatnot, and Louisville of all places.
We played with High on Fire too. I'm gonna interdisperse all these bands that come to mind.
I'm fine with that. That's cool, man. And
that were real influential on bands that we were all fans of,
Yeah. I mean, in general, I guess, what are some of your favorite bands or influences in music in general to get you to, this point?
I'm gonna have to say right out of the gate that Metallica is like my Beatles.
I heard that on the Schmidt
yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, I got a lot of shit for that because I'm into new Metallica too.
Yeah, I mean, I've never hated on them, but I hear it all,
What are you gonna do? Just the whole history and the American thrashness of it all.
Yeah, man.
Thrash. And when I first started playing drums, was really with Hightower, and we were just getting into New York hardcore thrashy stuff. And if I didn't know what to play, I'd just kind of hear what I wanted to play, and I'd usually just copy Lars,
Yeah, true.
So it was this could sound like Metallica a little bit. So that's how I learned, is just emulating favorite drummers of mine.
So you've been in Hightower for 20 years, and you started drumming for Hightower as your first project. First drumming project.
First drumming project. I've been in bands since, I've been playing shows since 1991. I was in a band in New York called Jiker that I was the singer for. Not a great singer, but I was always a pretty good frontman. We played with a lot of bands, actually, thinking about that band. I was cool, I was in the 90s, I'm still friends with all those guys, and we were all little skate rats, you know? But we played with the Specials, Murphy's Law, Warzone, Voodoo Glow Skulls. Again, so many bands. But yeah, I've been like touring and playing bands since 1991. And this is the first time I'm actually taking a little break from it, you know?
Oh yeah, because you're a father.
Because I'm a father.
Ayo.
And that's what I want to do right now. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, music and skateboarding is always part of me, you know?
But it's the new thing.
I still do it. It's just making adjustments where I do it a little less. Now every time not that it, like I was telling you before, not that it's any less meaningful, but like now, or not that it ever was not meaningful, but now when I skate or play music, it's like every minute counts, every second counts,
exactly.
Every drop of sweat.
I mean, but as far as music and your availability right now, where we're at right now is the Williamsburg Music School of Music.
That's right, Williamsburg School of Music. This guy Craig runs it. He's awesome. I give lessons here on Saturdays, drums, guitar, and bass. So if you were a loved one, want a drum or a guitar or a bass lesson, any age, any skill level, hit them up. Williamsburg School of Music.
What about some all-time favorite skaters and influences on that level?
Matt Hensley and Andy Roy are like my two, in my top three.
That's sick. I just randomly ended up in the van with Andy Roy the other day.
Nice.
In town with like Novak and them.
Yeah, I've seen some of that. Nice.
That dude's really flourishing in his later years, man. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a fan of his since, you know, whatever, the cow video, you know, and even before that, I had a Santa Cruz board with the crystal ball on it. And I ended up meeting him in San Francisco, and we're acquaintances. Shout out, Andy. You're awesome. Stay on that path. And Hensley, I was a full-on kid with the chain wallet and bleached hair and cargo shorts. Still to this day. Yeah, like Matt Hensley and Andy Roy are my top two.
Damn, that's sick to have.
And then I'm going to go Cardiel, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know, newer guys, I think, as far as street newer guys, I mean, is Spanky a newer guy at this point?
No, I mean,
no.
That's cool. You're really into Spanky.
I think, shout out Spanky.
Sweet.
Yeah, I don't know, all his Instagram stories, is that throwaway footage? Like,
yeah, maybe so. He's doing all the crazy animations with it.
Yeah, that's like street skating to me though.
Yeah.
How he's hitting it.
He's back on it, dude. I feel like he had a time where he had, you know, wasn't around or wasn't on Baker, and now he's back on it full-fledged.
Yeah.
Going hard, you know.
Like
the Baker 4 video, right? He, I don't want to say a comeback part, but he had a,
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those videos, but we're friends, and I just watch what he's doing now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't pay a lot of attention to like the real younger cats, you know.
Mm-hmm.
When you're around a while, that's when
you
catch my eye if you have some longevity, you know.
Yeah.
But he's like doing some street skating, what I think is street skating. Grant Taylor, the whole anti-hero team is like how I always want to skate in my head,
Yeah.
even if it's a curb, you know.
Mm-hmm.
New York guys, I like Keith.
Yeah.
I remember when I first moved back here, I seen him. He was littler, but he always had just sick everything style. Like I was like, this kid's ripping bowls and ripping street,
Mm-hmm.
Playboy earring.
Yeah.
And now it's cool to see him like full dude. And like the old school New York powerhouses, Jeff Pang, of course.
Yep.
Guys like that. Glad Five Borough's still doing it. We could circle that back around to the 90s when I was skating around. I palled around with the first wave of the Five Borough team a lot, like Dan Pencil, Nardelli.
Okay.
Steve Rodriguez is awesome. Alex Corcoran was always super cool.
Yeah, Corcoran's still around a lot, man.
Still around, yep. I became friends with him after I moved back, but he was always around in the 90s, super nice guy. And I found myself riding for Rookie skateboards at the end of the 90s before I moved to San Francisco.
Or no?
Yeah.
You see like old footage and you're like, damn, this holds weight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They were having a kind of a re-celebration right now.
They are?
Jenkem just did this thing. They were the first women's skate company
Okay.
to have a whole team of like ripping females, and then after they were around for a while, they decided they wanted to start to put guys on the team.
Nice.
And I was one of those guys, along with Tino, John Klein. So it was cool. I went out to Tampa in '98. I think I got like 66th place. Scheckler was like 10. I remember Bam was in that one. Ellington, Susky. That was a good time. And then like the whole deluxe crew was there. And that was like when Annie here was just out, and just like seeing Mickey Ray's from a distance, be like, that guy's the best.
Legend times.
Shout out Mickey. Glad to have become your friend. Yeah, I think I got on Rookie. I was just skating in New York. This friend of mine was a tattooer. And this is when Ted Newsom and Chris Markovich were living in New York in the late 90s. And my buddy who skated and was a tattooer was Markovich's tattooer. So we became friends, and I was skating with him a lot. And then just hanging out with the Rookie people, like at night in the nightlife. Just kind of got on the team that way. Had a couple ads in Slap.
Slap magazine.
Did some contests. Did a couple Warped Tour contests. Still got the plaques at my dad's house.
Oh, you got
Up on
plaques
the
for
wall.
it?
I got plaques, yeah.
And not a participation plaque.
No, world semi-finalist.
Oh.
So that was awesome. The 90s then. And then at the same time I was playing shows. I was playing shows with Jiker, like Brownies and Wetlands, Coney Island High. Going to shows, I saw like Descendants, Coney Island High when they first came out with Everything Sucks. ABC No Rio was going on. I went to like see like Youth Brigade there, and like Rancid's first US tour there, still to this day. One of my favorite shows I've been to, because that first record is awesome. First Rancid record with the gun, super sick. Wetlands, and yeah, then I was skating the whole time. Also.
Yeah, I know I ran into you at Robstock playing with Hightower.
Mm-hmm.
It was like basically just an abandoned ramp in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
It's somebody's childhood home where they built, the house is completely dilapidated, but there's a ramp that's perfect, and it goes onto the roof, and people are going off the roof. It's fucking sick.
Yeah, well, that was 17, right?
2017. It's Robstock. It's hosted by Rob from Low Card Magazine.
Rob Collinson, aka Magnethead, great friend of mine. Shout out. Yeah, I lived in San Francisco, you know, from '99 to 2012. Hightower formed in 2001. Became friends with Rob pre-Low Card, pre-Hightower.
Oh, cool.
And then he got that going. It just took off, man. Like, I still have the original issues when it's just staples and paper, like a zine, you know?
White Staples, yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden he had like Adidas and Nike like fighting over ad space.
Damn, that's sweet.
And then for about 6 years I was the music editor for Low Card. If you look back in some of the old ones, I just interviewed bands. I had every issue for like, I don't know, a few years. If you go back, you can see like I did it super DIY zine style. Like, you know, I'd record the interviews and then I'd type them out, and you can see like Scotch tape on the pages, mm-hmm. and like glue stick marks and stuff, and I'd like Sharpie the name of the band on top of each page. So if you go back in some old Low Cards, you can see those pages. I was credited as Medanich Band Dude. The first Hightower tour was 2002, and our first, circle back, 2002, Low Card started, then Rob's dad passed away, left him the house in 2002, 2003. So Rob was like, I'm going there and we're gonna throw a party to honor my dad. I'm gonna build this ramp. And the second Hightower United States tour was basically booked around that. We had that show. So we're like, okay, we have this show in Maine, which is pretty much the farthest you can drive from San Francisco to get to the East Coast. So we had that show, and then we're like, okay, then we'll just fill in the blanks. We'll just connect the dots from Maine. We have that show. We'll connect the dots from Maine. We used a lot of Maximum Rock and Roll, Book Your Own Fucking Life, it was called. A physical book of venues and houses. Call them up, you know? Again, before the internet really wasn't cracking. No GPS, no Bandcamp, no Facebook. And yeah, our anchor show was in Maine. We went out there with Streets, I believe, that summer. Could talk about them later. Great band, great dudes. Anyway, I think we got through our set. Or no, we were doing mixtape style sets with Streets that summer. So we'd do a song, they'd do a song, and like it was like jousting sets. And then the cops came, shut it down after like 3 songs, and like Rob had to hide in the woods.
Oh, from Rob Stock?
They're like, who owns this place? This was the first Rob Stock. 2003.
Okay, yeah.
2003. So there's nothing. It was very small, you know.
Yeah. Well, so when we went,
Hightower was the entertainment, and then it just snowballed from that year on.
In 2017, when we went, it was huge. It was pretty huge for just some
Yeah.
guy's property, and apparently, like, I guess they've been doing it so many times that the local law enforcement like didn't fuck with them. You know, like at some point they know better. Now they're just like, it happens every year kind of thing.
No, for sure. And he's
a
a stand-up guy. Like he's from there. He's a paramedic for the San Francisco Fire Department in good standing, and he's just like a real great, straight-up dude, magnet head. But anyway, that first one, he had to hide from the cops in the woods at his own house. And they're like, Rob, they're yelling for him, like, we come back, you're going to jail. So like the music was cut, but it was still just, you know, still had the fire pit, and I don't know, maybe there's 25 people there, you know.
Wow.
And then we would use that as our anchor show every summer, because Hightower would tour every summer for like 6 weeks. And every summer was based around Rob Stock, and it just got bigger and bigger, you know. We went from playing on the dirt to a stage that was built.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there still isn't a bit more fortified stage there, but maybe next year, Rob. And yeah, it's just it's a great event. Snowballed from there, 100% DIY. I think he has like Creature or whoever pay for the plywood to relayer the ramps every year. Yeah, you went. It's kind of where I met you.
Yeah.
That's been covered in Epically Later. There's a Rob Stock. You can find that online.
Okay.
Patrick O'Dell did a.
Yeah, Patrick O'Dell, he always does good work.
You can find that. He was one of the first people I met in San Francisco. We were living there at the same time when he worked for Thrasher. Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people think of me as a San Francisco guy. After I came back from New York, I was there for 13 years. But I've been hanging out in Williamsburg since 2002, the first Hightower tour. We played with Japanther out here. And I would always come home for Christmas and like on tour. 3 Inches of Blood.
Dude, big fan of 3 Inches of Blood.
Yeah, those guys are great.
Are they from out there?
They're from Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
But they were a very tight homie band with Hightower. We played like, I think our 3rd show was in a basement with them in Vancouver. Right away, Hightower's cool because they're my buddies. Jake and Hightower I've been friends with since I was 14. He was in that band Jiker as well, so I've been playing music with him for over 30 years. And our first shows, like, no one would book us. No booker in San Francisco would touch us because we were just like these skate rats, you know, playing at our house. We had this punk house, full house, half pipe in the yard, and, you know, drum set in the dining room. I was going to be the singer for Hightower. We couldn't find a drummer, and there was a drum set there, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to play drums. And that was it. But anyway, no booker would touch us in San Francisco, so we just threw our own shows at our house. And they were awesome. And then I think our second show, did our first show at our house on 1040 Hampshire Street. Then our second show, we had a friend in Tucson, Arizona. He booked us there. So our second show, we drove down and played like 2 shows in Arizona. And the only car they had for rent was a gold convertible. And I was in the back with like the guitars and my cymbals, and the other 2 guys were in front. It was like this super small gold convertible. And then after that, we played another show at our own house. And then we had this whole Vancouver connection through our friends Streets, and they invited us up there to play a house party. And that's where we met 3 Inches of Blood in the basement, played with them, became great friends, and then they fucking took off. And every time they would come through San Francisco, they would put us on the bill to like open for them, and Black Dahlia Murder or whoever they were on a package tour with, they always looked out for us. So that's how I know those guys. Great band, good
Yeah,
dudes.
I guess that makes sense. I'm a big fan of 3 Inches of Blood, and then Hightower it's like, I don't know, I always call it like conquest metal. It's like,
Yeah.
you're charging
Story metal.
Yeah. Charge the tower.
Yeah. They played in California once too, right before they like broke big, and they were still doing DIY tours. They played at a show in Santa Rosa, and they were on tour with a band called Witness Protection Program. And we went up to see them in Santa Rosa, support our friends. Again, this is before they fucking
3 Inches of Blood.
3 inches before they blew up. And the show was pretty unattended. It was like us and a couple other people, so no one knew who they were yet. And they were crashing with us that night in San Francisco. So at that time, we had this huge practice spot in like a worse neighborhood. Like we'd come home from a show at night to unload our gear, and there'd be like dudes like going through the garbage like in the building, like stuff like that. But we had this huge room, pretty lawless, and we went back there with 3 Inches of Blood and just like put on our own show in the room. Hightower, 3 Inches of Blood, and Witness Protection Program. Made a couple calls and just had like this awesome DIY show and just played and partied all night. Simpler times. And then like promoters in San Francisco started getting wind of us that we were this band that did it ourselves. One promoter was brought to one of our shows by a friend, and he was like, "This place is packed and I don't know anyone."
Yeah.
And then like this is Scott Alcoholocaust, R.I.P. Just recently, but anyway, he was an awesome Bay Area promoter for like the last 25 years, and he started hooking us up right away. The rest is history. It's all about the touring, though. Not enough bands just hit the road anymore.
Well, yeah, right.
That's what's up. That's how to do it. That's how you do it.
Any
Keep us on the road.
Any particularly wild stories from skate road trip, concert road trip? Like, I guess they were all skate trips though, but with the band.
Yeah. This one Hightower show we played in Mexico always comes to mind. We played in Nogales, Mexico. We were on tour and we had a show in Tucson. That was always a stronghold for us, And our buddies in the punk scene, political punk scene or whatever, and there was some protest. It's not the same kind of shit, some border shit that, probably not too different from what we still have going on. So there was a benefit show in Nogales that we were gonna play. And we drove to the border, parked our cars, and walked over the border with our guitars and cymbals on foot, walked into Mexico for a mile. Nogales is pretty cutty. It's there's dead dogs, and we had a big group, so we had this whole posse just walking, guitars and skate. We didn't have our boards because we were coming back that day. We were going to play a show, and it was in some kind of structure with no roof. There was a tarp over the roof, and it started pouring, raining. The show was awesome. The punks are always the best, the real punks, especially hospitable and just psyched.
Yeah.
Don't take anything for granted. And we were this instrumental thrash band from California, So we went and played, and people going nuts. It started raining in the venue because there was no ceiling, Somehow they just took all the tarp action and managed to cover the PA, and us. One of the amps blew. Jake had to go direct through the PA. And I remember thinking, it sounds like the Reagan Youth guitar sound on that record, so we were psyched. And then we played the show, just people slipping, all the punks slipping and sliding on the linoleum wet floor. And we got to ride back over the border. I remember sitting on the border for 2 hours just waiting to get over. It was easier to walk over with our instruments.
Yeah.
Then we just hitchhiked back. We knew the people who were driving, but just car rides. And I fell asleep watching a beautiful sunset at the border. And back to Tucson. It's not such a crazy story, but that always comes to mind.
Yeah, that sounds
And we marched with everyone, to the show. It was to the border and then to the show. That one comes to mind. But I don't know, just touring back then. So easy. sleeping wherever, shoe pillows,
Yeah.
making the shoe pillow a staple.
You were talking about camping at or sleeping at the Louisville Park. I remember we used to do shit like that. Like we definitely went to Philly one time and slept in the FDR Bowl and woke up to like construction on the highway at dawn, you know?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. We always called it urban camping, but, you know, always good times.
Yeah. Yeah, we played a punk house in New Orleans, or right outside New Orleans, Homa or something. And everyone just crashed there. I remember sleeping on the lawn with some other friends. And we woke up to a real estate agent showing the house to people. I guess it was like an eviction party. And then like the next day, we woke up like a real estate agent like kicking us with like showing this home to some people.
Jethro Tull or Sabbath?
Tough one. Oh man, really? Sabbath.
Tough one.
Tough one, man.
Yeah, well, we also talked about some of your favorite bands. We
Tough
didn't necessarily talk about just like favorite drummers that, you know, just drummers, not necessarily the full set. You know, some of the best drummers, influences, and things like that.
Yeah, Bill Ward, Lars.
Bill Ward's from?
Bill Ward's from Black Sabbath.
Okay.
He was another one too. When I was learning with Hightower, I'd be like, okay, this kind of sounds like a Sabbath song. Let me listen to the Sabbath song I think it sounds like and do exactly what Bill Ward did, and that's like how I taught myself drums. It's like copying him and Lars. George Hurley from the Minutemen and Firehose. Bill Stevenson from Descendants. This local guy named Ryan Sawyer, who's a friend and awesome dude, awesome drummer. There's this band, the Champs, the fucking Champs from the Bay Area. Their drummer, Tim Sowetti, was a big influence. I like Dez from High on Fire a lot. This is not a top 5, right? This is just influences.
Sure, man. If you got more than 5, that's great.
Yeah. I gotta go with New York hardcore guys, especially the Westchester guys. No one gives Anthony Drago any props. He was in Killing Time Breakdown. My buddy Darren Morgenthaler, who's in Maximum Penalty and Counterattack, and is now in Blood Clot. And they're like, you know, from the 914, where I'm coming from. My buddy John Weisberg was a big drumming influence. He's in Asshole Parade, Stress Boy, another 914 guy who I grew up skating with, and he would have shows at his house, you know, stuff like that when we were all in high school. There was a good scene. I was very lucky. We had a skate shop and like a record store that put on shows.
Up there near White Plains?
And yeah, the skate shop was White Plains, and then the record store was Rockin' Rex in Yonkers. And it's crazy. I look back now, my friend Tony ran that, and I'm still friends to this day. He actually just put out the SM Project cassette that you can get. The smproject.bandcamp.com, solo stuff. But anyway, I'm looking back at my buddy Tony, who ran the record store. He was like 29 and 30 back then. And I look back and we were just high school kids, like there's underage drinking and just like, he would let all our bands play there, all our shitty little high school bands play there, and we like built this whole scene, this whole like community, because before Green Day broke, you know, right before Green Day broke and punk was so popular. This was 92, 93 when this was going on. And yeah, it was just how all the skaters and punks and ravers all just kind of found each other, you know, from all over Westchester County. Go to Sports Boutique to get your chain wallet, and like Rockin' Rex to get local records and stuff. So very cool to have that stuff growing up. And then the city was right there, like I said. I went to the Brooklyn Banks for the first time when I was about 15. Our friend's dad drove us. And I was riding a SMA Jim Thiebaud. That's how I can remember the kind of era it was.
Yeah, because there used to be, there weren't graphic shit out every week, you know.
Yeah.
A board would last, so it had an era, it had a time in history, you know.
Yeah, but the Little Banks were the best, man. Nose bonk the wall. That was my move, a nose bonk. I'm gonna try to pull one of those.
Oh, okay, yeah, let's get one.
Actually, let's go skating right now.
Woo!
Are you a vagrant when you're sleeping on the train? Are you a vagrant when you planet Earth? Are you a vagrant from your day of birth?
Yeah, I guess we haven't really touched on SM Project at all.
The SM Project.
The SM Project. To me, it's like a really fun, experimental kind of. You've said rave twice now, so I get it that you like dance music or fun.
No, not even. I
much.
can just recognize the rave culture, you know.
Yeah,
I never raved.
Like,
I never.
I never raved. They don't claim to rave, but.
I was never a club kid.
Okay,
I was never a drug kid.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I had a lot of friends quit skating
Because of all that.
to go to raves and like get fucked up on drugs for a little while, you know. But that's what they had to do, you know. Now I'm still friends with those motherfuckers to this day.
Yeah.
And some of them even managed to find their way back on the board, you know.
Cool.
But
yeah, the music's pretty fun. It's
yeah.
It's fun and experimental. I really don't know how else to label it. You could definitely go there.
Yeah, that stuff you heard is just stuff I made during quarantine, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at home, but then being a new dad, you know, and I was low volume recordings, low volume music was my only.
But you nailed it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but then the SM Project all came about just out of necessity. I had some bands earlier in my time in New York, 2013-14. I was in a band called Iron Force, which was super sick. We were around for a short time. I was also in a band called Mammal. I played drums in Iron Force and I sang for Mammal. And there was times when neither of those bands could play a show. And I'd be like, neither of those bands are available, but because I was never one to not play. I love playing, I love performing. So I had this thing called a Korg Chaos Pad and this vision in my head, and I was like, Mammal and Iron Force can't play, but the SM Project will play. And somehow I was able to work with like metal or like stoner rock kind of stuff, you know.
So you have a bunch of stuff from back then, and you just kind of resurfaced it? I mean,
Well, it
resurfaced
really
the idea?
solidified it was Iron Force had some studio time at the Converse Rubber Track studio when they were in Williamsburg.
Okay.
So we had some studio time booked at Converse, and then the band broke up like the week of when that studio time was booked. And I was like, fuck this, I'm not losing this opportunity for free studio time that would cost a gazillion dollars otherwise, and they have everything. You know, so I was like, I'm just gonna go in there with these scraps of paper on ideas that I have, and I recorded like 5 songs under the SM Project at the Converse studio, and then that was like 2016, and then yeah, I'm claiming it started from there, and somehow I managed to get shows, and no one's told me to stop yet.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And like you and my buddy Elias and Rick and Buddy from Love Letters have used a lot of stuff, and I'm super grateful for that. I just recorded like 10 songs at actual studio, which is a little more drum machine, punk hardcore, psychedelic guitar vocal, drum machine oriented. Yeah, it's very psychedelic.
Yeah.
And it's cool, like who doesn't like music that you can
Wiggle too.
yeah, like quirky electronic music
Yeah, totally.
with like ambient.
It's got a lot of levels in there, you know, like it's a lot of different sounds, especially compared to coming from like a heavy metal drummer. It's, you know,
Yeah.
different.
No, it's super cool, and it's so liberating to just get up there by yourself and have nothing to hide behind, you know. And under that too, like I also have like a full acoustic set that I play. I have like 7 acoustic originals, just me and a guitar, you know. That's still a little, you can tell I come from a punk hardcore school, but it's still like a full-on acoustic singer-songwriter set.
Tim Berry style.
Yeah. So that's been really cool. I always do that. I get along with everyone in that band. There's no ever conflicts between me and the art department, you know, for the SM Project.
Okay, yeah. But you said that you do have regular people, or you have people fill in, or?
That was a joke because I'm the only one in it.
That's what I thought. But you did say in another interview that you have people fill in.
Yeah. I have like this grand finale song called Space Vagrant.
That was a fun one, yeah.
Yeah, you can
Really
get that.
took it.
You can get that on the cassette or on the Bandcamp. But I just have like never. I just have a multiple percussionists come up on stage for that, and it's like the finale for each set.
That's sick.
And luckily, no one's ever said no. You know, like I don't plan it. Whoever's there, like me, I'll make a few phone calls, like, yo, I'm doing a SM project show. You want to play percussion?
Mm-hmm.
Blah blah blah. But I've never not had anyone participate, which is pretty cool. And I like, so I do the whole set. When I set up, there's like, I basically, there's always a house drum kit, and I just break it down. So it'll be a floor tom here, I'd separate the rack tom, put it here. I've even turned the kick drum on its side like this, you know, like tip it over.
Mm-hmm.
So just super war drum caveman, you know,
Yeah.
for someone to hit. And yeah, that's been good.
Nice. You got any plans of performing anytime soon?
No plans. I just did an acoustic set upstate. I went to visit my dad, and I have some other friends, up there in like the kind of cover band, kind of hippie bluegrass acoustic scene. And they threw me on a bill at this brewery, Hidden Gardens Brewery, Norwich, New York. So I got to actually take the acoustic set for a first flight.
Nice.
For the first time, and yeah, again, it went all right. Yeah, received well. Mm-hmm. But nothing planned. I'm playing with a few different friends here and there, and I want to get these new recordings out. Just recorded a video for one. I'm trying to get a video for each of these songs, and they're cool. This is like the next SM project show will probably be drum machine, electric guitar singing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little more
going
punk drum machine oriented, kind of rock and roll. Yeah, and then just being a dad, skating when I can.
Yeah, I mean, New Yorker SF.
Oh man, fuck. Stick with me, America.
Yep.
And this guy's great too. We guess I met at Robstock, then
Seen you around 98 Orchard a lot.
we can touch on 98 Orchard.
Concerts. We didn't really touch on 98 Orchard at all.
No, but that's where me and you became friends, I would
definitely.
think.
He'd be bartending at this awesome art gallery that was just always had the best events.
The best events.
Dude, Billy, reach out to us, dude. That's
Shout out
just-
Billy. That was Monster Children and Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yep, Monster Children magazine and Billy.
Yeah, shout out. 98 Orchard Street was a great, short-lived scene.
Mm-hmm.
Surfboard in the basement.
Yeah, Surfboard played there. That was one of the best shows. Like,
And it was definitely the best fucking bartending gig anyone could ever have. But that's
sweet.
where me and Dennis became friends, struck up a relationship. 98 Orchard, bring it back. Monster Children, where are your guys? All right, peace.